This episode of Play the Game podcast is brought to you by HK Army, and PTG listeners, do I have a treat for you. If you are playing NXL Chicago, HK Army is offering a special paint promo to PTG listeners only. HK has made constant improvements to their paintball formula, which is leading to more consistent results come tournament time. Myself and the entire Houston Heat squad have been feasting with HK Army paint at the events, and I can't wait to see you all out there in Chicago shooting it soon. You will even be able to test the event paint yourself at NXL Chicago once you arrive at the venue. Be sure to email teams@hkarmy.com. That is TEAMS at HKARMY.com. This episode is brought to you by HK Army Paint. The tournament season to find out how your team can get the hookup ton of teams paintballs for NXL Chicago. Don't wait, do it right now. Email teams look no further at HKArmy.com. This episode is brought to you by Lone Wolf Paintball. They are an amazing online supplier and have been around since the beginning of the game as Michigan's premier paintball field and paintball supplier since 1987. They are rapidly expanding into the online retail space and supplying everything you need to be the best paintball player you can be. They have got it all. Head over to lonewolfpaintball.com and shop all of your favorite brands. And they also boast amazing customer service and will have this out to you with same-day shipping, which is amazing. It's always nice to know that your stuff is on its way immediately so you can start to use it that very next weekend of play. Check out their YouTube, Lone Wolf Paintball, and their Instagram @LoneWolfPB, and stay up to date with all of their deals and sales. Play the Game podcast is immensely honored to have them on board, and we cannot wait for you guys to check out lonewolfpaintball.com and become a part of their community. Today's episode of PTG is brought to you by the one and only Trans Labs that brought the world two amazing products. First off, Transfuse, which is a hydration multiplier, and most recently they just dropped Transcend, which is a nootropic energy formula. No matter what you use, when you choose Trans Labs, you are going to be boosted and you are going to be ready to charge the paintball field and win out there. With Transfuse, that is a premium rapid hydration multiplier and immunity fortifying formula scientifically designed to replenish you at the cellular level. And they use all natural ingredients in this product. We've got zinc, we've got vitamin B6, we've got vitamin C, sodium, potassium, choline, and it is an amazing way to make sure that you're hydrated and prepared to play top-level paintball. When it comes to Transcend, that is a premium nootropic energy formula designed to increase cognitive performance, elevate mood and clarity while supporting long-term brain health, and it's going to leave you feeling great with no crash or jitters. It's one of the only products in the nootropic space backed by research studies to ensure the formula is correct for optimal performance. It is more potent than anything on the market, and it will keep you charged and ready to win out there. I take one scoop, but if you're stimulant sensitive, take a half scoop. And if you want that LFG dose to launch to the moon, dump 2 scoops in your drink and you are going to be flying down that paintball field. Comes in 2 delicious flavors, Baja Blast and Skittles Candy for the Transcend. And for the Transfuse, they have 2 new flavors as well, Pineapple Express and Hawaiian Punched. So if you get a chance, head over to translabs.com. That's TRANZLABS.com. Use code PLAYTHEGAME and you'll get 10% off. If you subscribe to a monthly delivery service, you also get 10% off as well. So you can take advantage of 20% off on these products. Head over to translabs.com and give it a go.
What's going on, PTG Nation? Thank you guys so much for tuning in and rocking with us. This episode, we have a very special show for you. We are talking about all things paintball. This is how to play paintball, how to play the game. We're going to dive in to all the different fundamentals and the different things you need to understand to become a better paintball player. Great decision making is what separates the good from the great, and it will separate you within your division. So understanding your role, your position, what to do and when is everything that we discuss here. You guys are not going to want to miss it. Stay tuned all the way through, and if you have any questions, find us in the Discord.
That was an insane inside move by Marcello Margott. Great communication.
And the crowd starts chanting Harmon.
Great shot by all the guys. Though Tyler Harmon saved that game.
He came out with 2 wins. Marcello Margott
What's going on, everybody? We're back with another episode. We got a really fun, awesome, exciting episode for you guys this time. We want to talk about how to play paintball, how to play the game. We want to give you guys all the tools that are necessary to become the best versions of yourselves on the paintball field. We just got back from a PTG Pro School, and it really, sparked and inspired this idea. So, Ty, what up, brother?
Yeah, what's going on? What up, PTG world? And this is kind of like an homage to our earlier days as well. It's been a while since we've just been able to, you and I, dive in on paintball theory and subjects and topics. We absolutely love every single guest that we have on the show, but also really value these moments where we can chat about the game and dive into the intricacies of, how to play paintball the best we possibly can, because that's why we're all here. We all tune into PTG to get the little, kernels of knowledge from all these different players and walks of life. So we're excited to play the game live on the show today. Let's go.
Hell yeah, let's go, dude. That's exactly right. This show has helped myself become a better player just from listening to all the players that we've had on, listening to yourself, and reiterating the points that we make on a weekend. On an everyday basis. Every weekend we are either teaching or playing with our teams or competing, and kind of the stuff that we talk about on the show, it reinforces what we're doing. So it's been a, amazing learning experience through and through, and it'll be pretty nice to sit down and kind of share that with everybody.
Yeah, man, the show has completely changed both of our lives in so many ways on and off the paintball field, but I know that it has made me a better paintball player because it's pretty simple, right? It makes sense. You talk about it, you think about it, you're in the flow of paintball, and we're able to pick so many amazing people's brains in regards to paintball and see it from different perspectives. And really, that's how you get good at anything, is trying to view it through the lens of someone else and pick up any different types of ways of going about it that'll make you better. So I guess the first place that we'll start at is just saying thank you to Bebo and to Quinn at Iconic Paintball for having us out at Quick Shot this last weekend.
Oh, absolutely. They put together an amazing event. It was really cool to see the vibe out there. The culture was right. We flew in Friday, got to go to Street Ball Friday night. They have an amazing setup with lights.
It was badass.
It's a really nice field. Shout out to Quick Shot Paintball out there in New Jersey. It's an amazing field. Turf is brand new. And there was probably, I want to say there was like 40 people there at least on Friday night, right? Just having a good time. Playing pickup games. They were playing 7-on-7, 10-on-10. Didn't need to be too serious. It was just, kind of all about the culture, which is really important for the game. People were enjoying paintball. It was a little lawless, a little more lawless than I probably would approve of. I think you agree. Quinn was out there running a racket, just playing in flip-flops, Crocs. He refused to put cleats on. Yeah. I think the very last point, he took his shoes off and just ran to the snake off the break in his socks.
Go get him.
Go get him, Quinn. Quinn was on a mission. But honestly, huge shout out to Iconic Paintball and Quinn for setting that up. I know they did one with you last year there. I think it's really important to have pros at your field to generate excitement around the game, right? And teach people how to play and make people more confident and excited to go and play. Typically what happens after we do a clinic is in that area, the field will see a resurgence of people that are excited and eager to train. And it's not just the 35 people that came to our clinic, it's all the players that they're in contact with over the next couple months. They share the knowledge, they share the experience, and it makes people excited about paintball. So I think it's really important. And, huge thank you to Quinn and Bebo for setting that up and having us out there. Can't wait to come back. We definitely are going to have to get back there next year.
Absolutely.
It was a fun time. We got to stay right in Philly, downtown. Our hotel was sweet, had amazing views of the Capitol, and, had a really nice dinner Friday night. It was a little later than I would have liked. I like my sleep, so Saturday morning, I was a little tired. It came kind of early. But then Saturday was a great day. We had 35 people at our clinic, and we got to do a little tournament at the end, which was awesome. We had some amazing players out there. Some of the goats came out. Shout out to Nick. He flew in from Florida, which is insane. One of the goats flew in from Florida. I think there was like 5 or 6 goats out there, which is pretty sweet. There might've been a few more. There were some undercover ones that didn't say anything until like late Saturday. I was like, bro, why didn't you say anything? It's hard for us because we don't have like an image with your name attached to the Discord. It's so, when you come up to us, I think we need it should be mandatory. If you're a goat, you got to wear your goat wristband. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's why we send them. You got to have the
That's why we
goat band
send
on.
them. Yeah, gotta have it. Maybe they had it on under their arm pads. You know.
This is true. Yeah, and we had our first inaugural PTG tournament that we've ever thrown, and this was the only PTG Pro School that Marcello and myself will be doing together this season, but we look to do some more next season together with some other fields around the country. But we had a tournament, and we had some winners. We gave out medals. There was prizes. It was a really special day of paintball out there at Quick Shot, and it's one of my favorite parks in America right now. Like the energy of the people out there, everyone who is involved in that camp and in those camps in general with the park are really amazing. So thank you all for coming out and making it one of the best clinics that I've ever been a part of. The energy was just really high. Everyone was having fun, learning paintball, taking lumps. And, it's not all smiles. There was, some learning curves for a lot of people out there, but we made a really productive day out of the entire training. And that's kind of what we want to dive into on this show, is like a live clinic, essentially, for everyone out there, and kind of what we go over and what we're looking for in different aspects of the paintball game. And there are so many, and it takes a long time to learn them all and a lot of trial and error. But we're going to kind of just go over the nuts and bolts of what it takes to be good in a paintball game here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with that, I say we dive right in. Fundamentals are the first thing that everybody should be working on. Would you agree?
Yeah, fundamentals, absolutely. You got to get good at running and gunning and snap shooting. I mean, I've been saying that since I was a kid, but it really does help you in so many ways. And also sliding, you got to get really good at sliding too, because you're going to be sliding all over the field, and you want to be a small target when you enter into your bunker and get ready to get dominance of your wire or make that spot. So there's a lot of really great tactics that we implement in our training that get players good at moving and shooting, snap shooting, and then also sliding, which are your core fundamental tactics that you need to be really good at to play top level paintball.
Yeah, Tyler, I totally agree. I think the sliding one is a bigger one than people realize, because it affects how you move around the field, and it affects whether or not you can make a spot. If you're a big target as you're entering your bunker, you are way more likely to get eliminated by your opponent. Just the way it goes. We even see it, in the pro division. Players that can get really low and make a really good clean slide can make spots that majority of other players are getting shot to in a tournament. You know what I mean? So we're talking about at the pro level. I notice it makes a difference. We've talked about it on the show before too. Like, I'm not the fastest by any means, but I feel like I'm really good at route running, and I can, maneuver my body in a way to where I make spots. If anytime that I do run, I make the spot. Corners are something I've always been able to make. I feel like, you can, when you're running out to a spot, if you go from tall position to a really low position very fast, you kind of trick the shooter in a way. And if you can slide into the bunker, often, I don't know, I feel like they're shooting over my head, maybe a little bit behind me. You want to be kind of fluid in your movement, not boxy and big. You can make yourself a small target. It's a really important skill to have. There's tons of amazing drills to get better at this. Ryan Greenspan, I think, has some on his YouTube channel. You could also go to BKI. BKI has a ton of different courses on lateral slides and how to dive, things like that. You watch the video once, and then you just go out to a park. If you find some grass, go out there. Don't bring your paintball gun. Just learn how to, do the motion. I remember when I was a kid, I would do that. I'd put my paintball gear on. I'd go to the park down the street. Didn't bring my paintball gun, but I would literally do just lateral slides back and forth when I was like 13, 14 years old. And I got really good and really comfortable with the slide movement. I became really proficient at it to where it was comfortable. It wasn't something I was thinking about. So on the field, if I wanted to make a move, I could make the move. I wouldn't hesitate because I was worried about sliding, and I could focus on my objective rather than, is my left leg down? Is my right leg going to be down? The more time that you spend thinking during a paintball game about how you're holding your gun, or which hand should my gun be in, or I'm running to the right, should my left knee be down? That's taking away from breaking down the game. That's taking away from understanding the full picture of what's going on in the paintball match, right? When you're focused on these fundamentals, that needs to be second nature. Fundamentals have to be second nature so that you're not thinking about it when you're playing, and you could actually just focus on executing a game plan or executing a move, a decision, right?
Yep. And that's something that you need to do on your own time as well. Like
Oh yeah.
when the team's together, that's team paintball. And obviously we're working on different fundamental aspects of playing great team paintball. But when you're having that time where you can have the field to yourself and go run and shoot, gunfight, go to the park, like we talked about, you need to really put some urgency on dedicating time to those different facets if you're not really proficient at it, because you'll never be able to climb the ranks of any division, let alone go pro, if you don't have those core fundamentals just really dialed in. And we even had some players out there that had a really tough time with sliding, but after going over some key aspects of it, they had a really good grasp of it in just a short amount of time. And I guess the key aspects of sliding is you don't want to just drop out of the air and just land hard, right? So you got to start to crouch your legs and get closer to the ground. I was showing people that I actually can do the slide. I can do a Superman slide so slow, but it looks fluid. I mean, I'm talking
Right.
slow, like just taking baby steps and going into it. And then obviously you speed it up as you get more confident and it gets more fluid, but you can go really, really, really slow in the beginning and then build into the speed of, getting that full send when you're going forward. If you're doing a Superman dive, the main thing you got to remember is extend that front arm out so your gun doesn't get stuck up underneath you. So if you have the gun in your right or your left hand, make sure you really extend that arm. Your arm should be straight and out in front of you with the barrel up so that you don't get, people get broken ribs or break their guns. It's because they're not extending that arm and keeping that barrel up. And then also when you're doing your lateral slides, using that hand as an anchor as you move left to right. You want the first point of contact as you crouch into your slide to be your hand coming down and creating stability for your legs to sweep underneath as you slide. And it takes a lot of practice, but you can go to the park, grab a dumbbell, like a couple pound dumbbell, and
Do it
do
with a
all
pod.
these.
Do
Do
it
it
with
with
a
a pod.
pod. Do it with
Yeah,
an empty
totally.
pod. Super easy,
Yep.
and less likely to have any damage, you know?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, do it just or with nothing until you feel
Right.
comfortable enough to go to the field, but you just got to start with the muscle memory and then it'll become a lot easier. But sliding is going to save your butt out there on the paintball field. If you can become a
Oh,
small
yeah.
target, it doesn't matter how big you are too. Like I'm 6'2". There's people that are way bigger than me that play paintball and they still become a smaller target as they enter into the bunker. But it's all about doing that work off the field and really dialing in on these fundamentals.
Yeah, Tyler, you're absolutely correct, dude. Again, it's you can't overlook all of the little details. If you want to get good at paintball, then you need to break down everything into its own component. The gunfight, off the break shooting, running and shooting, sliding, diving,
Mhm.
your stance, like work on your, you have your gunfighting position that you'll be in. Well, what muscles are you using to be in that position? Right? You're using your quads, your core. So maybe work on those muscles during the week in the gym. Strengthen those
Absolutely.
muscles. Strengthen the muscles that you're going to use on the paintball field. I see that more and more now. Players are starting to take it more seriously. They're in the gym, especially players that are really trying to chase a pro career. Exercise is part of the party. Everyone's
I
doing
mean,
it now,
there's
but it's
no way. It's mandatory.
mandatory. It's
Dude,
absolutely mandatory.
there's
Yeah.
no way you're gonna
It,
be successful unless you're working out. I mean, don't get me wrong, you can be successful, but if you want to be the best, if you want to be, like, supremely successful, why not do the extra work? Why not? Like,
yeah.
I don't understand the argument against it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if you want to be on that next frontier, do these movements, do the extra work that it takes, because that way you're already talented, you're phenomenal. Let's say you're one of the best players in the world. Take it to the next level. Why not?
Absolutely. It's one of the first pieces of advice we can give to teams and players. It's going to take time to gain experience. It's going to take time to learn how to break down different situations and read, plays and positioning, things like that. But what you can do immediately to gain separation and give your team a better chance to win a tournament is be better physically conditioned than your opponents, right? If you're playing an opponent late Sunday towards the end of the tournament that is better than you, if they're tired, if they're at 60% and you're at 85%, you're probably going to beat them. because the physical fatigue leads to mental fatigue, and mental fatigue causes you to make bad decisions. So you're not even playing to the level that you should, right? It's not just a physical thing. It's the decisions that are being, especially in these summer months that are really hot. We were out at ASG this last weekend, got to play on Sunday. Oh, so actually, yeah, didn't talk about that. We got home late Saturday night, and then Sunday I went out to AHG Paintball, our local field, and was able to get some points in with Mouse, Kyle, Rainey was out there, Rory, old Aftermath OG alumni was out there running with us. It was awesome. We got MVP of the day. Rory was balling. It was really, really fun to play with Rory again. We had Rounder, shout out to Jordan from the Discord. He was out there. He got some points in with us. And we were just having some fun, but it was 102 degrees. Right. And we weren't even playing a lot of points, but you could see people were just exhausted. And towards the end of the day, I just come back from multiple flights back to back. I was pretty exhausted. I was definitely dehydrated. We didn't drink enough water when we were in Philly, not even close, and then flying just really takes it out of you. And the very last point was like a 6-minute point. The turf was on fire, so my feet were cooking. And the game just broke down where we were all like in these weird positions. We were playing against Aftermath. And you could feel like you start to lean into making a bad decision, because you almost just want to get it over with and get off the field. You're like, I should just go through this zone. Like if it works, it works. If it doesn't, whatever. Then you got to take a deep breath. And you're like, no, that's a bad move. It's a 3-on-2. Let's play this correctly. And that's just a, small sample size of what I see happen in tournaments all the time. The teams that I work with are better conditioned than any other team we play. That's mandatory. And I think it shows in a lot of our tournaments. I really do. I think it shows. It's no secret. Look, if you play a sport and you're in better shape than your opponent, you're going to do better than your opponent 9 out of 10 times, right? Look at Steph Curry. That's a key to his game, is his endurance. He doesn't stop running. He's not big. He's not big at all, right? He's a small basketball player, and he's a shooter. He has to run the whole game, and he loses his defenders. His defenders get tired, and then his defenders aren't as efficient on offense because they're spending the whole game chasing him on defense. Because he doesn't stop moving and he doesn't get tired. So that has allowed him, and people don't talk about it enough. I think, if you really watch basketball, you understand how good his endurance is, but it's like incredibly elite, right? And that has led to his ability to be just one of the best ever. He's changed the game, and it's because of, many other talents he has, but the way he works on his endurance is something else. If you watch some of his workouts, your jaw's just kind of on the floor because this man doesn't stop, right? So we need to implement those things. And look, we understand people have jobs, you have other stuff going on, but it's not just for paintball. If you start implementing things to become a better athlete or more physically conditioned, you're going to live a better life. You're going to feel better. You're going to avoid certain illness. You're going to last longer. Your body is going to thank you later. So it's a win, win, win all around, right? Eat a little bit better, exercise a little bit more. It'll produce results on the paintball field, and you'll also be happier in your day-to-day life.
Yeah, and it produces confidence as well. Like you have a tremendous amount of confidence when you take the field, when you make your moves, when it is deep on Sunday, you're extremely confident and your body feels good. And it's truly a game changer. And it doesn't have to be some huge shift that you put into your life. It just starts with a small change, and then that small change will lead to another small change, and then that will start to trickle into other areas of your life. But it starts with making a choice and making a decision that you're going to eat a little bit better, that you're going to move your body around, that you're going to go for that run, you're going to invest in those weights or that pull-up bar or whatever it is that can take you that 1% further for your health. And that's really all it is try and be focused on just doing one little thing a day. And watch how it just, kind of compounds, it'll start to compound and become a whole new life that you could have never imagined just from making that one simple decision to do better for yourself so you can be a better paintball player. And it's going to lead to, a better life altogether for yourself and the ones around you. Absolutely.
I can't stress that enough. It's one of the things that I wish more people took seriously was their health, and a lot of it is knowledge. I have realized that so many people do believe they're eating the right things or getting enough exercise or, and they're not seeing results and they don't really understand why. And it's a shame because we're so poisoned. It's a whole nother conversation. We won't go down this rabbit hole, but we're so poisoned with marketing, and food and what is quote unquote healthy and unhealthy. I can't even begin to tell you how many in my family were like, I've been on this diet for a month. I'm eating this, and that. And why nothing, it doesn't work. So why even do it? I'm like, well, that's loaded with sugar. Cool. It doesn't have fat, but it's loaded with sugar. It's processed. And it's a bag of chips, just because it says vegetable chips and has like a nice matte green label, that's not good. The easiest recommendation is raw foods, right? Vegetables, meat, potatoes, rice, simple stuff, not loaded with sauces and fried and oils, simple stuff. And if you do that, like 80% of your meals, you're going to notice a serious difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're not doctors or, nutritionists or anything like that. But we've just been able to see what worked for us. And I know for me, water is number one, man, making sure that my body has the best water. And I'll spend extra money on these really nice spring waters. Like, I feel like it's the best thing for me personally is making sure that as a water being, which is what we are, that we put the best water in. And then obviously the food comes next. But really, I mean, if you think about it, you don't need as much food as you think you do. I think, it's like the water is obviously, you got to make sure you're drinking tons of water. But if you are having 3 huge meals a day, maybe, don't have 3 huge ones or, like just once again, it's 1%. Or if you're
It
not eating
depends on,
enough, then make sure you're getting that protein, make sure you're
Right.
getting your vitamins. It's a crazy balance that you have to find of if you're trying to gain muscle mass or lose weight or whatever it is that you're trying to conquer.
Correct.
But the water is really the cornerstone to it all, making sure that you're properly hydrated. And then you can figure out the nutrition on your own. We're not here to tell you how to eat. We've had our own experiences, but just make sure you're drinking really good water. That's a big one.
Yeah, absolutely. Water is massive. You got to hydrate your cells, at the cellular level. Like you need to be hydrated. It's one of the most important things. Majority of people walk around on a daily basis dehydrated.
Totally.
And as for food, I feel very confident making the recommendation to avoid processed foods, avoid stuff that has a lot of, fake sugars and stuff like that. Just if it's real, it's probably a lot better for you.
Yeah.
That's pretty sound advice. And then, yeah, Tyler's definitely right. It depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to lose weight, you're going to eat a certain amount. I think for all the science, I believe, points towards less calories. Obviously, there's a threshold. You can't be malnourished, but less calories equals longer lifespan, leads to longevity. There's something about the digestive process that kind of, wears the body down. Now, for me, especially, I've like kind of had a little breakthrough, which is nice because I've been trying to build some muscle, trying to get a little stronger. And eating more food has been really important for me than in the last 6 months, eating more calories, more protein. But it has to be clean too. It's not just, you don't want like pizza unless it's Slice House. I've been eating some Slice House pizza, but you don't want just pizza and burgers thinking like, oh, well, I'm quote unquote bulking. No, it should be clean. Grilled chicken, ground turkey, avocado, nuts. For me personally, this is what I've been doing, right? It works for me. People have certain dietary restrictions. If you have a nut allergy, then, maybe certain nuts aren't right for you. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Maybe take the extra step and meet with a nutritionist, get on a plan, right? A plan always makes whatever it is you're doing a lot easier. Even if you write it out yourself, I've noticed that, right? You can have something in your mind like, okay, I'm going to work on this over the next 2 months. If you don't lay out a plan, it doesn't get done. If you lay out a plan, like, okay, 2 months, that's 8 weeks. So let's see, the first 2 weeks, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. The following 2 weeks, I'm going to do 1, 2, and 3, right? You just lay out the actual plan. It becomes so much easier. You wake up, you look at it, you do it, you check it off the list, and then boom. And then in 2 months, you have everything that you wanted to accomplish accomplished. So, maybe meet with a nutritionist and try to figure out how you can optimize your health, optimize your body. It will make a difference because guess what? Your body, it leads and it's attached to your mind. It's all connected. So if you feel good physically, then mentally you are going to produce better results. You're going to make better decisions. You're going to feel better. You're going to have more confidence. Like Tyler said, you're going to have an all around better quality of life. And again, I'm sure a lot of people might be listening by now, like, okay, we didn't, we want to learn about paintball. We don't want to learn about diet and all this stuff, but I promise you guys, it's important. Give it a shot.
Totally.
Just try to optimize your abilities is all we're saying. But we could dive back into paintball.
Your gut has its own brain too.
It has its own brain, dude. You have more
controls your emotions.
You have more neurotransmitters in your stomach than you do your mind. If people don't like, that's what regulates our mood. When I learned that, I learned that years ago. And when I learned that, I was like dumbfounded. I said, hold on, what? That's like, I understand what serotonin, dopamine, I know what these receptors do. There's a ton of them in my stomach, and the food I eat affects them. That's crazy. That's very telling. And it's like, okay, well, I have to nourish that. I got to put really good quality stuff in there. And, it's funny, just like a drug addiction, what leads to drug addiction? When you really get hooked on a feeling from something, you start to crave it. Same with coffee, alcohol, whatever it might be. Well, food is the same. There's this, the first time that I really noticed it, there was this salad that I would make from Jimbo's. It's a, like organic grocery store by my house. I'd put spinach, arugula, chickpeas, cucumber, bell pepper, olive oil, vinaigrette, avocado, some like pumpkin seeds. Also, it was this delicious, nutritious little bowl. And first couple times eating it, it was okay. It's pretty good, but you're like, okay, I'm just trying to thug it out through a salad because it's, I would much rather have a burger or something. The way it made me feel over time, I know when I need to go get that salad, I'll go and I'll make the same exact thing. And I have this weird sensation that is almost like I'm fiending to take the first bite. And then I take the first bite and I feel like I'm getting high. It's no joke. I feel like I'm getting this release. Like I understand, my body knows that the nutrition from that meal is going to make me feel better. I'm going to have a chemical reaction because of the nutrition that I'm eating, and so like I crave it. It's a crazy thing. And you notice that. Yeah. And you notice that with like, there's certain foods that'll just like make you feel better, and everyone's a little different. Right.
Yeah.
I hear the jokes people are saying, yeah, chocolate chip cookie makes me feel real good. It makes me feel real good too. Not gonna lie. But it's about 30 minutes after you don't feel as good. But you'll learn these foods that your body just reacts well to, and you want to have more of those. You want to have more of those in your life.
Yeah. And then if you're getting that great, it's healthy and it makes you feel good, do more of that. It's going to make you feel great moving forward. And then diving back into obviously the clinic aspect of, playing paintball. I know we had some different facets of the fundamentals that we wanted to go over. We kind of went over the sliding in regards to snap shooting. I'm sure you've seen videos of Marcello and myself. And shout out to Quinn, got a lot of great content, and Lone Wolf as well with Rye Guy Media, got a bunch of great content out at BKI.
And our boy Chris Caputo, come on now.
Chris Caputo, yeah.
Chris came out and he's spitting out some fire too. I love that kid. He's just dynamite. Talk about someone who's really excited about paintball, does all the right things, takes the game very seriously. True student. He was there eager to learn, and he did us a favor by getting a lot of awesome content. Chris, he has a bright future if he sticks with it, which I'm pretty sure he will,
he loves it.
Yeah, he loves it, dude. He's all in.
He absolutely loves it. And thank you, Chris, for coming out and just being a sponge as well, like hanging out with us, giving back to the community, just being there as another pro player, giving back in the way that you have is really tremendous. In regards to gunfighting, there are some key fundamental aspects that you need to remember when you get into gunfights. And the big one for me is tuck that elbow under your tank for good. It's just like, just get that elbow under the tank.
But let's address that really quick, right? And if you guys are listening, I do highly recommend going over to the YouTube right now to get a visual, because one thing I see so often is when we say tuck the elbow, which is absolutely right, you can tell that players don't really understand. They just try to tuck the elbow, and what ends up happening is their wrist is way exposed. I can't even really do it because I don't know exactly the movement that they do. But do you know what I'm talking about? Where it looks like really awkward. What do you think that is? Do you have an explanation on how to fix that?
So a lot of it is someone's tank nipple for the air fill sticking into the wrist. The high percentage of players have that going straight into their wrist, and they need to have that either up or down so that that's not going into the wrist and poking the wrist out. But then also being mindful of keeping your wrist flat against the ASA underneath where your tank screws into. You have to, like, when I hold my paintball gun, my wrist is flat against that and my elbow is tucked underneath my tank, and it creates this really great line that you hear us talk about, like playing off the line of the edge of the bunker so that your opponent can't see you before you snap shoot out, which is really difficult to do. But look in the mirror. Just go and look in the mirror. Get your setup together.
Real quick,
Look
Ty,
in the mirror.
let's talk about that line, because you explained that so eloquently, and it's I've implemented it in my teachings, right? But that's exactly, you want to get to that line, right? What is it? What is the line? Explain the line.
Yeah. So the line is this imaginary point of reference that you can't cross over. Otherwise, you'll get eliminated, obviously, or your opponent is going to see you. So from your opponent to you, there's this invisible line that gets created off the edge of your bunker. And the only way to find that line is to obviously know where your opponent is. So you've got to head check or do something to find your opponent. That's step number one. You can't create this line unless you know where your opponent is, right?
Because it's where he can shoot or see.
That's correct. That's right. Yeah. So step one is find your opponent, find out where that line is so that you don't get eliminated or give yourself away. Do a quick head check off the side, whichever way you need to get that awareness, and find that point of reference to where you can then place your foot next to that line in your bunker, to where your foot's not being exposed. But it's obviously on the inside of that line, as close as you can to that, so that you can become very efficient when you snap shoot. If you put your feet right next to that line, obviously to where it's not exposed and getting shot or identified, if you put it right on the inside of that line, it's going to make it to where your snapshot is super efficient. If your foot's too far away from that line, you'll find yourself reaching and like toppling over to find your shot. And it's really strenuous. It's actually draining. It's very tiring, and you're inaccurate. So being able to create that point of reference and then place your foot properly gives you a really stable, efficient way to gunfight from your bunker.
100%. I love something I've always tried to express is that footwork is incredibly important in the gunfight, right? And it's because of, like, when you're going to, it's most important when you're switching sides, right? Often players, they'll do a good job of getting kind of to that imaginary line and they'll gunfight with their right hand. But then when they go to switch, their feet don't move. Right. And then they switch hands with their paintball gun, put it in their left hand. And now they're leaning so far over to come out of the other side of the bunker that you're off balance. You're going to be inaccurate. It's going to be hard to find your opponent. You got to shuffle the feet and be really mindful of where you're going to. Your feet should maneuver you in these little micro movements around your bunker. Right.
Totally.
And that's an important part to understand, because while the gunfight is predominantly the upper body and the obliques, I personally like to use more of like the roll method. I think, square up with your opponent, with your target. Whatever hand my paintball marker's in, I like to drop that shoulder back, because I think it allows me to be a little tighter in the bunker. You can get closer to the bunker. Whereas if you're boxy squared up with the bunker, because of the barrel, you're going to be forced to play off the bunker quite a bit. So I drop, if the gun's in my right hand, I drop the right shoulder back, right? And it's kind of a side oblique roll, more of my core, but you're absolutely using your leg muscles as well. You're transferring weight from the left side to the right side. And then you're pushing back off the right side to the left side. Now, visibly, you shouldn't be able to see the movement in your legs too much. Like if somebody's watching you or filming you, you shouldn't be able to see a lot of movement in your legs, and your foot should definitely never leave the ground. Players, that's one of the biggest mistakes I see. I even see it in the pro division sometimes, which is kind of crazy, where players are like pushing off and their foot's coming off the ground and you're kind of losing balance. Now, sometimes gunfights get a little crazy and it'll happen. I mean, I think there's even footage of me, trying to come back in really fast and my foot leaves the ground. Happens, right? But you want to try to be mindful of keeping a strong base, but you're definitely loading and unloading from side to side. And again, if you're listening, probably an episode to check out on the YouTube as well later on or whenever you can. But you're kind of loading and going back and forth, and you're activating your quads, and even my like toes push back and forth, and that gives you just a little more leverage in the gunfight, right?
Absolutely.
I always try to explain it as well. you have your point A and your point B. The reason I like this is because it really simplifies the gunfight, and it'll apply to any kind of field. If you're playing on hyperball, airball, woods ball, it doesn't matter. Your point A is get as close to that line as possible, right? Gun up, ready to shoot, unexposed, not exposed to your opponent. Point B is when you are ready to pull the trigger. So you want to minimize that movement, maybe about 6 inches. That's what that point A to point B should be, about a 6-inch window, right?
Mm-hmm.
You come out, and I like to pull the trigger when I'm right at the apex of point B and coming back in. Often I see players making the mistake of when they're gunfighting, they're shooting on their way out, right?
Yeah.
And when you're pulling the trigger on your way out, you're going to miss your target to the right or to the left if you're shooting left-handed, right? You're going to miss your target wide. So I find that when I am at the apex of that movement, point B, I'm exposed, I see my target, I've aimed, I pull the trigger right there as I'm coming back in, and that's when I'm the most accurate.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you feel the same way? Do you have anything about that, Ty? Because you're one of the best shots ever in the game.
Well, the key is as soon as you roll out and then you reach the apex, like you said, you want that to be you want to shoot your ball as close to the edge of the bunker as possible.
Yes.
And not be exposed too far. And there was a video
Yes.
that was talking about this recently, but it's like, I think I said, you want to sizzle that ball right off the edge of the bunker, and like send that
Mhm.
thing as close to the edge, obviously without shooting the bunker because you're going to miss your shot. But if you roll out too far, then you're overexposed. So
Right.
once you reach that apex, sending that shot, and we saw a lot of players at the clinic who are newer and learning these tactics, and they'll roll out, shoot the edge of the bunker, and then hit me in the ribs on the sideline because it bounces off the edge of the bunker.
That's the worst. There was one summer camp. Well, I'll get to the story in a second because I left a point out about being in your point B posture.
Uh-huh.
And this is why it translates to whatever field you're on. Point B, you need your arm, your gun, and your loader to be in a symmetrical line parallel with whatever the edge of your bunker is. So if it's a hyperball tube, you want to be, if it's straight up and down, everything needs to be straight up and down, right? If it's slanted at a 45-degree angle, everything needs to be slanted at a 45-degree angle. Your head, your barrel, your loader, and your arm, right? If it's a Dorito, it would be like that. If it's a can, it's straight up and down. If you're in the woods, whatever the side of that tree is, that's what you want to be in a straight line with. Like if you can get that through your head, it'll help you with the gunfight, I think. Totally. It's just a very efficient way to think about it. Summer camp a couple years ago, we had these 2 corners that were stand-up cakes, which are the worst bunker to have in a corner. Because if people shoot the bunker and you're on the sideline, you're just getting ripped. So we were doing the 3-on-3 attack the 50 drill. So all the actions right there, people are in both corners trying to get into the 50 snake. And it was like every single point, players are just ripping the side of their bunker. I must have gotten shot probably 45 times before I finally. And I kept saying, stop shooting your bunker. One, do you know how many times I've watched? It happened to us at this last tournament with the Misfits, where our player shoots their bunker and it bounces off and hits your own teammate, right? Yep. Like you need to have good trigger discipline. It's not just because I was standing there and didn't want to get shot. I mean, that added salt to the wound, but you don't want to be shooting your bunker when you're rolling out because you risk multiple things. If the ball breaks on your bunker, now your barrel is rubbing up and down in that paint. You're not going to have as accurate of paint, right? Like that's a frustrating thing. You could go by it and accidentally brush it with your arm, and then a ref thinks it's a hit and you get a penalty. It could bounce off the bunker and hit one of your teammates, right? So you don't want to shoot your bunker. So after telling everybody 15 times probably to stop doing it, they kept doing it. I was like, okay, I grabbed like the 6 main perpetrators, the really bad ones. I was like, okay, you guys stand on the 50 here. And I went and get some of this. I went into the corner and I started gunfighting like they were, and I'm just ripping the side of the bunker, and they're all going off into them. And I'm like, do you guys understand now? Don't do it. Don't do it.
They got it quick. They got it quick.
They did though. They really did, because they might have played a little slower and they weren't engaging as much, but they certainly weren't shooting their bunker, and so they were mindful of it. And then they started to pick it up and like, okay, here's how I do it. It's like learn to crawl before you run.
And the big one is you're obviously not going to hit your opponent. You named off many facets of other things that could go wrong, but the main one is you're not doing anything to hit that opponent that's shooting right at you. So really be mindful of that apex, like Marcello is talking about when you reach that.
Real quick though, because I've had an argument, or I would say a discussion with somebody who said that they were taught to start shooting before you come out, so that by the time your barrel reaches that point of being able to see your opponent, a ball's already coming out of the barrel. And I was like, look, it's more important to work on the timing. If you have good timing of when to pull that trigger, it's the same thing, so
Yes.
just work on the.
I'm glad you brought that up, because
Yeah.
we're talking about fundamentals of snap shooting and body posture in the bunker, but there's nothing that will prepare you for a really good gunfighter and the way that they move and time, the way that they come out of the bunker, and how they play different angles of the bunker and how they time it. It's a really intricate science that takes so long to get really good at, because the best players in the world, you will never catch them in a metronome. You'll never catch them it's very hard to pick up their cadence and their flow of where they're going to come out of in their bunker. And they also send a great shot when they do come out of the bunker, because they are also drawing multiple different lines, like those imaginary lines we talked about. As you're moving in your bunker, that line is moving too. So they're really good at shuffling their feet and recreating the line multiple times in a gunfight. And that's how the best gunfighters are winning those. But I love that you brought up the timing, because it's so important. And we see that where players are really good in drills, fundamentals. You put them on the other end of the field and have them gunfight people, and it's like, who is this? They can't, they've lost every
100%.
time, Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. My challenge always, and really we got this from Rusty back in 2020 when we were preparing for World Cup, right? But
Yeah.
shout out to Rusty Glaze, one of the greatest coaches of all time. And this was something great that he implemented. But the challenge is, every single time you're at the paintball field, grab a bag of paint. If you have one case for the day, that's fine. Use one bag for this. If you have 5 cases, still just one bag, but one bag of paint, right? Grab a teammate. Right? Grab a teammate and shoot 250 balls with your left hand, 250 balls with your right hand at each other, right?
Yep.
Shooting targets is great. It's going to help you work on form and accuracy, but that's about it. And the gunfight is so much more than that. You need paint coming back in at you from different distances. If you engage at the same speed, as you would snake 3 to snake 3, corner to corner, you're going to lose that gunfight a ton, because the speed needs to actually slow down.
So hold on. Yeah. What you're saying is, if you have a player in the snake 3 and the snake 3 and they're gunfighting that close, the metronome or the cadence is way different when you bring them apart further, obviously. So you have to become really mindful of that ball distance time that it's flying, and incorporate that into your shot and your timing of snap shooting as well.
Absolutely. And if you just start to gunfight with a teammate rather than with targets, right? Do both. Both is definitely good, but make sure that you grab a teammate and gunfight with him. Not even anybody, right? If somebody wants to get better, just gunfight with a person shooting paint back at you, so you can understand the rhythm and the timing of the gunfight, and you can get good at that part of the game. Because to me, that's actually the most important part of gunfighting. In the pro division, the players are sharp, especially at the top, right? The players are fundamentally sharp. So the difference becomes gunfight logic, right? Understanding rhythm, timing, where to place the ball and when, right? You need to have the accuracy and technique to get you there, but then it's the mental part that separates you, right? This game is so mental, and then people revert back to fundamentals and don't realize that even the fundamentals are incredibly mental,
Absolutely. Yeah. And like you said, at the pro level, everyone is really, really good at paintball. It comes down to who's going to make better choices. And that's where the gunfight logic comes into play, making better choices out of the side of your bunker and how you approach your movements and all that kind of good stuff. So the next one that we're going to dive into is moving and shooting, right?
Moving and shooting and looting.
Shooting and looting. Shout out to the looters and shooters. And you got to be able to move and shoot efficiently. It all comes down to efficiency, really. That's what paintball is all about. So getting from point A to point B, obviously off the start box, getting that barrel up and getting the paint right where it needs to be immediately is the utmost importance for moving and shooting. And then once you're in the game, making sure that you just keep that gun up. Don't drop your barrel down. Keep the gun up, keep paint flowing. And as you move and shoot, you also need to be mindful of drawing your shot as you're moving, because your body is moving at a certain pace, whether you're going left or right, and the paintball is going to be moving at the same rate as your body is as you're moving left or right. So you've got to take that into account and draw your shot a little bit to the left or to the right, depending on which way you're running, so that the ball kind of hooks into the shot. If I were to just aim right at my target while I'm moving and shooting at full speed, running to the right, and I'm aiming at a target directly at it, I'm going to miss to the right of that target by the same amount of speed that I'm moving at, because the paintball is moving with me at that rate. So I've got to draw my shot a little bit more. And, if you're not moving too fast, it's just a really small, minute draw. But if I'm moving at full speed, I got to draw it a couple feet to where I'm shooting to the left of my target by a couple feet to hook that shot into the target.
Yeah, Ty, 100%, dude. And running and shooting, let's just talk about how it can be applied on the field. Off the break, if you're going to a corner or a tape spot, right? Or even up the middle now. A lot of fields, you can go up the middle and get a shot on one of the other team's runners, right? Running and shooting is a very important skill. For me, I run and shoot pretty much any time I go to a corner. It's no secret. If people in the pro division don't know that about me already, then I don't know. You just haven't watched film, because to me, I don't feel that it slows me down. Right. And if there's not a bunker that is like a big middle bunker, that would allow me to dive in, and the lower I go, the safer I am going to the corner, then it doesn't make sense not to run and shoot. So running and shooting, if I'm accurate, I can shoot back and apply pressure to the people shooting at me, right? Fedorov is one of the best at this. Moving from bunker to bunker, you as well, going down the Dorito side. When you make your move from Dorito 1 to Dorito 2, your gun's up and you're putting paint back at the person that's shooting at you. So you use the snapshot to gain dominance, to put the person in that's trying to keep you from moving in. Then you make your move using the running and shooting skill set to keep your opponent in, and actually maybe even have a chance of eliminating your opponent, right? And then you get into your spot, and now you've been able to advance down the field by using these fundamentals, where, if a player puts me in and they just go to the next bunker head down, that gives me an opportunity to come back out and shoot them as they're diving in. Right. And it happens all the time when players they'll just put you in and try to make a move. Well, guess what? I know why you're putting me in. You're the one on this side. You're going to be trying to get to the next spot. So when you put me in, I'm not going to look to the right and say, oh, hey, what's up over there, guys? No, as soon as that pressure comes off, I'm going to come out, and I'm not shooting at where you were. I'm shooting at where I think you were going to go. Right. I'm predicting, if you're a front player and I'm a 2, I'm keeping you out of a spot. You put me in. I know what you're trying to do. So the second that pressure comes off, I'm going to come out and my paint's going right to the landing zone of the next spot. I'm not coming back out to gunfight where you were. I'm trying to shoot where you're going. Right. That's a way that 2s, you guys can really pick up a lot of kills. I promise, if you implement the tuck and shoot strategy. I think I have a video on YouTube there, tuck and shoot with Marcello Margott. I mean, it's amazing. It gets you so many free kills. But these are all fundamentals, right? So if somebody runs and shoots, I feel pressure the whole time. They're going to make that move clean, and I can't do anything about it.
And you don't really know where they're at anymore. They've kept your vision, in to where you kind of don't know what's going on too. And they have even more of an advantage on the player that they're moving and shooting and snap shooting with, and can come out of anywhere essentially once they make that bunker and have held that dominance. So it's really important to work on these fundamentals for a multitude of reasons, of obviously being able to pick up some free eliminations just off of working on these fundamentals, but give yourself that elusiveness too on the field by controlling your opponent and dominating them to where they don't have a chance to even put paint back at you. You have such great paint off the edge of their bunker.
Yeah, 100%. So incredibly important fundamental to work on. I think, an easy way to work on this is just this one. You can set up a target. This is a great target drill. Set up a target and just run back and forth, right? Run, 20 feet to the left, shooting at the same target, then run 20 feet to the right, shooting the same target. Do it from different distances. Obviously, it's much harder to run and shoot from further away. BKI has a ton of amazing drills. Pretty much everything that we're talking about here. If you log into BKI, you could use code Play the Game to sign up. You're going to find tons of extensive drills to really hone in on these skills. And we're telling you how they will actually apply in a real game, right? So it's one thing to have the skill, but it's also nice to know what to do with these skills.
Totally. That's right. Yeah. There's some amazing drills. My favorite's the tower to tower, setting up 2 towers and then a pan that you shoot at as you go back and forth from the towers. You can do the snap shooting and moving and shooting. And that's as well. I think I have that drill in BKI, so you can check that out. And then we obviously got to dive into off the break shooting. It's one of the most important aspects of the paintball game. I assimilate paintball in many ways to like golf, to where you have like your drive, your mid game, and your putt. And paintball is very similar, where you have to be extremely good off the break, smart in the mid game, and have the wherewithal to close out points and know what to do when it's those end time situations. And that's that high level paintball IQ that we talk about all the time. But off the break shooting is really just all about being balanced. You want to make sure you have a very balanced, stable shot so that your barrel isn't wavering. You're never going to hit anything if your barrel is wavering all over the place and you don't have a nice, stable shot.
Yeah, 100% stable shot. That's another part about it, right? Like, I try to disconnect my upper body from my lower body when I'm running and shooting, right? You got to be able to load the quads and have some sort of balance where you're not just bouncing up and down, so it's almost, your knees can never fully lock out, right? You don't want to straighten your legs. You need to have your knees, your knees bent, which makes it a little more physically demanding. This is why being in the gym makes a big difference. Having stability and strength in your core and in your legs is going to help you be a better, running gunner.
They're natural shocks. You got to get your shocks dialed in.
Get your shocks dialed in, bro.
Straight up.
Dial in those shocks.
You got to dial in the shocks.
All right. Off the break shooting.
Yep.
This one's elite.
OTB.
Right?
Stay balanced.
This can make your team infinitely better. I'll tell you what, if you can shoot someone off the break, guaranteed 90% of the time, like if you are a steady 90%, I would argue that almost any pro team will pick you up, no matter what else you do.
Yeah, you're not wrong, man.
Like, that is such a damn important skill. If you could play, I mean, if you shoot somebody off the break and you're 5 alive, that's 20% of the other team. You have 20% more firepower. It's a big deal. It's a big deal in a 5-man X-ball game, right? So off the break shooting is something that I work on the most. It's one of my favorite fundamentals. I think it's, in the beginning of a game, you have so many bodies to shoot at. It's arguably like the time of the game where you have the most opportunity to get eliminations, unless you backdoor a team, they're just totally not looking at you and you slip into a spot. Otherwise, it's the start of the game. You have a ton of bodies that are running to positions. They're not behind bunkers. So if you can get really good with putting that first ball exactly where you want it, you can get a lot of eliminations. It's been a huge key to Dynasty success.
Yeah. I mean, anybody out there listening, like Marcello said, if you get good at this one facet of the game, teams will want to pick you up when they know, man, this player, he inks someone every single time he pulls up off the box. So get really good at that. And the best way to do that is being mindful of the point A to point B. Once again, it comes back to efficiency, a lot like moving and shooting off the box. This way, obviously, you're not moving at such a fast rate, so you can be a little bit more balanced and have a really accurate shot. But you got to put in the reps. Make sure your shocks are dialed in so you have a stable shot that isn't wavering all over the place. And you can predict, once again, which is all about outsmarting your opponent, what they're going to do. That's a huge part of off the break shooting, is having a great prediction of what your opponent is thinking about doing, because then you can place those paintballs right where they need to go.
Yeah, 100%. I wonder if we have the same answer for this. What's the number one piece of advice you would give to people shooting off the break if they're missing their target?
Most of the time, people aren't looking directly at where they're going to be shooting, or they don't have like the shot already envisioned in their mind. But my eyes are locked directly onto where my ball is going to go. And I don't know that people use their eyes as much as they should to really lock into exactly where they want that paintball to go. They kind of have a general area. They're like, I'm going to shoot into this area, but I'm looking directly at where my paintball is going to go off the break.
Yeah. Well, I absolutely agree with that. What I was going to say, though, is just shoot a little higher.
Yeah.
Majority of players shoot too low. I mean, I have to remind myself often when I'm shooting. We'll be doing drills and I'm like not hitting. I'm like, this looks so good. And then I'm like, okay, I'm just going to shoot higher than I think I should. And the kills start coming.
And what margin? Like, it's just a very, it's not much, right?
It's not much. Yeah. Like raise the barrel an inch, that inch is going to make a big difference, but the ball has such massive drop off that I think, it kind of deceives us in our vision where it comes out of our barrel and goes and goes and goes downfield. And you're like, that looks like it's going to be perfect, but it's, kind of at their knees or at their feet. And then if you just pick it up a little bit, like anytime I've ever done a clinic and we're coaching, whatever it is, shoot a little bit higher. We start having success. With myself, shoot a little bit higher, start having success. So if you're missing, try shooting just a little bit higher.
That's so
It's
true.
It's a really simple thing, really simple fix.
Yeah, and grab a buddy and run some routes against them and watch their paint, and see where their shot is and where it's landing. And a lot of the time, Marcello, you're right. It is landing a little bit short. And you're covering more zone as well if they decide to run deep. Now you might hit that low one, or you might get the runner that's streaking on that back line with the paintball as well. But you got to be mindful of exactly what your opponent's doing. So do good research as well. Try to get as much intel as you can. Obviously, in the beginning of the tournament, that's difficult. But as the tournament progresses, it's on you as each individual player to be watching your opponents. There's like this old saying, if you know yourself, you know your opponent, you won't be defeated. It holds a lot of weight, and you got to be doing the mental repetition and really learning what your opponent's doing as well so that you can use that against them.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess one more little piece of advice before we move on, from the off the break shooting. You can shoot over bunkers. So many times, people are like, oh, I can't shoot that because the brick's in the way and the paint's not going to drop. It's going to drop.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing as I said, shoot higher. That paint drops more than you think. You can shoot over bunkers. So, if there's a big brick on the 50-yard line, right, and people are running out to the corner, shoot over that, right? Mm-hmm. Often there's even been crazy times where there's a can at the center 50 and people are like, there's no way that's going to drop. It drops, right? It drops. You might have to stand a little taller, but it drops. Get creative and really find ways to shoot people off the break. Don't think that you have to be in the back center only from one spot. We look like in the 10-foot radius from the start station to the back center. That's where all the shots are, right? Mm-hmm. Like a 10 square foot radius from the start box. That's where all the shots are going to be off the break, right? So do your due diligence and just walk around, look at different spots, visualize where you could shoot over, what little dead space you could sit in to maybe shoot cross field and hit somebody, get a little creative with it. And then it's just repetition over and over and over, right? Just practicing point A, gun down, point B, gun up, ready to pull the trigger. If you're missing a lot, try to shoot just a little bit higher.
Yeah, there's so many great blind spots these days, off of the start box. And once again, it comes into doing your research on your opponents, seeing what they're doing and where their guns aren't as well. Go where their guns are not and look in those dead zones and see, hey, I can come here and shoot off the break because they're just not shooting here. They don't have the awareness. And that's a free opportunity for you to possibly get a great blind spot that has a great gap to the cross field or in front of you. And we see that a lot on most of these fields these days.
100%, brother. Alrighty, let's move on from there. I want to talk about positions and understanding your role. Now we're going to get into paintball theory, which is my favorite part of the game. I think it's your favorite part too. It's what, separates the good from the great, really does. And it separates you within your divisions, right? We talked about this at the clinic, making good decisions. You need to have good fundamentals to be able to execute these decisions. But at the end of the day, making good decisions is what wins paintball tournaments, right?
Absolutely.
And so in order to do so, you need to understand a few things. Understanding your position and your role on the team is very important. You can't have 5 players that play like me. You can't have 5 players that play like you. You can't have 5 players that play like Mouse, right? You can't have 5 players that are trying to do the same thing. A team is a team for a reason. All 5 pieces complement one another. You have your 1s, your 2s, and your 3s, right? Your attackers, your mid players, and your kind of back players. And really, your 1s are your attackers, your 2s are your mid players. Your 2s will become the 1s. If you lose your 1, and the 3 ultimately can become the 1 as well. Paintball's a very fluid sport like that. But let's talk about attackers, specifically the snake side.
Yeah. Go and get you a 2-piece. If you can get a 2-piece every time, you're doing your job, you know?
You will probably also get picked up by a pro team if you're getting a 2-piece 90% of the time.
That's right. Yeah. And, be diligent with the mental aspect of the game. Take time each day to think about playing paintball. Like we have so much time each day in our lives where we can think about paintball and think about navigating the snake side. Think about the different styles of snake sides that they have and how you would navigate each one appropriately. But it all comes down to, like we talk about at our clinics, applying pressure as a 1. You have to apply pressure so that you can draw attention from the opponent, and that's going to open up chambers of movement for your players on your team. And then once that focus shifts over to the snake side, it'll open a move to the middle or the Doritos. And then once that attention moves, because they made a move up the middle or to the Dorito side, it kind of lightens up the attention on you. You're able to play a little bit differently. And you guys have to, and girls have to connect out there, talk to each other, have good conversations, and ask good questions. At the end of the day, we're trying to build a vision in our mind of how to navigate out there and what's in front of us. And it's not going to just land in your lap. You got to go above and beyond to connect and find the information. You have to be hungry for it. You have to, it has to be on the forefront of your mind, that hunger to get information, because we see too many players that just go to their bunkers, get lost in the gunfight, get lost in a player, or get lost in some situation. You've got to stay focused on the big picture, which is helping your teammate, helping the people around you. Be the best at helping people around you and building a picture in everybody's minds. And you're going to be an extremely valuable component to any team that you step into if you can be really good at those things. And that goes snake side as a 1, 2, the 3, Dorito side, wherever. Let's, really be diligent with that work.
Yeah. To me, I just to try to simplify the position, right? If you're a 1 on either side, but especially the snake side, just because typically snake side is usually the more dominant, has a lot of big bunkers. It's the more aggressive side, typically, not always.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a snake player, if you're the 1 on the snake side, get down the field, apply pressure, get down the field, and then survive. If you have a chance to take down the person in front of you and maybe get a 2-pack, that's bonus territory, amazing. But the number one thing is apply pressure by getting down the field, right? And what I mean by that is don't go to the snake insert bunker and look inside for half the point. You are doing your team a disservice, and you're clogging up the spacing on the field. You're not taking real estate to allow for creative space for the players behind you. You're not putting pressure on the opponents, which is going to allow them to have more freedom, more real estate, and more creative space. When I say creative space, I'm talking about the space. So when a front player gets down the field, say a front player gets to the 50-yard line on the snake, the other team is forced to respect that part of the field. So they cannot wrap inside and focus on your team's 2s. I mean, they can, but only quickly, because if they stay focused on the 2s, the snake player can just wrap and shoot them. So it forces them to keep their guns on the outside of wherever that front player is, which allows the team that has the field advantage to make all of this movement within that, again, I like to call it the creative space, behind their snake player. So if you're a front player, and this applies to the Dorito side as well, get down the field. You need to apply pressure. So you don't always have to get the kills. You can get into these spots and apply enough pressure, right? Because one of the worst things that we see with a lot of young, talented, attackers is they do a great job of getting to the 50, but then they die right away.
Yeah.
Right? If you get to the 50, relax, take a deep breath. You've already accomplished a lot of the game.
That's right.
Just let your players catch up with you and capitalize off of all of that movement. But don't go to the snake insert bunker and look inside, and then go to the snake 1 and look inside. Go there, look inside. It's funny. Rainey is an avid listener to the show. Shout out to Rainey.
Yeah,
Rainey Stanzak, one of the best to ever do it. Love watching him play. Congratulations on your guys' win. But he brought something up that I mentioned. We were trying to think of it, and I couldn't until the next morning. I was like, oh, that's what we said on the show. It was inside, outside, wrap, go. Inside, outside, wrap, go. That should be your checklist, right? As you're making your move, you get into the next spot. Inside, see if there's free kills. If there's not, don't get stuck on it. If there's a little tip of a pack, you either shoot it or you don't. Don't get stuck on it trying to shoot it. Inside, outside, wrap, go. Get down the field, right? Be just diligent about. If you get into the snake 1 and you can crawl all the way to the 50, that shot's probably going to be better from the 50 than it is the snake 1, right? So get low, crawl the way down, and surprise the other team. Having the element of surprise is a huge thing for a snake player, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that's perfect. That's your job. That's your role. You need to understand that. Now, if you're the 2 on that side, what's your role? Your role should be to constantly be helping your 1. Yeah, go
Sorry,
ahead.
one more thing before we move past the one on the snake side. Also, you don't have to be like talking and yelling like crazy, obviously, but
Right.
you're gonna pick up some little bits of information as you
Yes.
navigate towards the 50. Just fill in the blanks. You'll hear your teams communicating about what's going on, and they'll be missing a piece of the puzzle. All you have to do is simply fill in the blanks for them and toss that information back to them so that they can get the rest of the team on the whole page of what's going on. But be mindful of that, of picking up those little bits of information and tossing that back to your team as a one.
Yeah, 100%. Communicating from those front spots is crucial. And a lot of players think they don't need to because they're the attackers, but those are actually the ones that can gather some of the most valuable information because they can see the most. They're the furthest up the field.
Yes,
Absolutely.
that's right.
So yeah, all right. The two on either side, really like the role of the one on the Dorito side is the same as the snake side. Inside, outside, wrap, go. It's even more so in the Doritos because the wrap and go philosophy. But the point is, as a one, your job is to apply pressure. Get into the good spots on the field as fast as you can, apply pressure to the other team, and then, survive. Let your team catch up, and then you can go back to work, right? So the twos on either side, to me, their job is to help the ones. Help the ones. Keep the other team out of the good spots, right? Good zone control, of course, but constantly feeding the one information and asking them what they need, what's stopping them. Should I reposition to help you get past this zone? The whole time I play as a two, I'm asking my one, what do you need? What's stopping you? Here's where they are. They're in the back left, the back center, the monster, the center 50, right? Trying to paint the picture for them, trying to help them solve the problem so that they can accomplish the goal of getting to the good spots on the field, right? If we lose that player, I become that player, right? If that player is alive, I'm collecting information from them, asking them what they see, relaying it to the other side, relaying it to kind of our threes or the twos on the other side of the field. But my job is to help the one. If I'm spending my whole time in a point trying to be the one while we have the one, guess what? The other team is now going to beat us to the 50 because I'm not helping my one and I'm not keeping them out of it, right? I'm just looking for kills. It's a big problem. So I need to do my job. I can't be hunting for kills as the two. I need to do my job, which is help my one and try to keep the other team out of the good spot. Now, once stuff happens, the ones usually aren't alive at the end of the game. Sometimes the really good ones are, but enough damage will be done to where I can reposition. And that's when I'll start to get my kills, is usually to close out the game, not in the start of the game. Right? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And as a two, you need to make your one feel comfortable as well.
Yes.
Having a really good connection with them to where I know, if Marcello is playing behind me and I'm the one and he's feeding me information, it helps me build this picture in my mind and I feel comfortable. I know where the zone coverage is. I know what we're looking at. We have a really good connection on where our visions are, what I'm looking for. And prior to the game as well, we've already connected on the objective of what we're trying to accomplish. So before the horn blows and we release out into the field, we have a really good idea of what we're trying to accomplish and how we're going to navigate out there. It just doesn't happen by happenstance. As soon as we go out there, we've gone over these details tirelessly so that we can conquer the opponent on the other side of the field. So making your one feel really comfortable with good information and just connection, just hearing the voice, just checking in with each other, giving each other good intel. And then as a two, you want to bomb your opponents so that your one, bomb them, man. Shoot as much paint as you possibly can at your opponents so that they can't make free moves and they can't feel like they can just pop out of their bunkers. Really, shoot the bounce shots. It's definitely very important to know all these different bounce shots because you can help your ones in that way as well, and just make them feel comfortable and have a lot of paint in the air for them.
Yeah, dude, shooting a lot of paint. That's a big one as well. Great, great point there. Not enough paintball players shoot enough paint. They're out there like looking. And when you're just looking and doing stuff like that, guess what? Your team's basically playing down a body, right? Have paint in the air. Very important key. And then a three is really the jack of all trades, right? To me, a three needs to be really mobile. I think we have this traditional idea of a three being a stationary player that just holds zones and communicates and shoots people off the break. I think to be a really good three, you actually need to be very dynamic because you might release up the middle. You might have to go attack on the snake side, go attack on the Dorito side. For me, when I play the three spot, what I'm looking for is where do we have an advantage, right? We obviously have a game plan, and typically you stick to the play, but sometimes the play can break down and you just don't have the advantage on a certain side. So it doesn't make sense to stuff your extra body that way, right? It might make sense to go the other way where your team has an advantage and has a chance to win the game, right? For example, if our play is to attack down the snake side, but we send 2 out to the snake side, our front snake guy gets shot off the break, we have our 2 alive over there, they make it in the snake, right? And their 2 is also alive over there. Does it make sense for me to fill that direction and just kind of go stuff into that? Or what if on the Dorito side, we only sent 1 body out, but we shot their Dorito side off the break? So now the widest person on the Dorito side for the other team is the back center, and we're wide on the tape on the Dorito side. I might make the decision to say, you know what? Things kind of changed. I'm going to go Dorito way. We're going to try to power down that side before the other team powers down the snake side and wins through their advantage, right? Now, you can make a case for both things of like getting out to a corner on the snake side and trying to slow their attack. But I'm a big fan of finding the other team's weakness and taking advantage of it, right? And as a 3, you need to be able to recognize that. You need to be able to recognize like where the advantage is. Where are we going to try to push? You need to shoot a lot of paint, apply a lot of pressure with your gun, and be the connector. You communicate one side to the other. You connect the flow of information and make sure that all the players understand. And so actually it's a lot of listening rather than just communicating. It's a lot of listening, hearing what your teammates are saying from each side, and then piecing it together and presenting kind of a full picture of, okay, here's where they are, here's where we are, here's where we're going to try to win from.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that'll develop after, it could be in the first 30 seconds, you'll, and that's why we have 2 ears, right? Double the amount of listening out there. And I know I speak for myself when I say that a lot of my paintball is played with my ears. Obviously I fill in the blanks and like you're talking about, Marcello, acquiring the information and building that package and then distributing the whole package once we have it. But you can't do that unless you're really good at listening to what's going on. And then, like you said, pattern recognition of identifying the opportunities on the field once you do get eliminations and knowing how to build that picture so that you can take advantage of it. And as a 3, you're kind of like the third one, at some point you're going to be up to bat to go to work. And if you lose your 1s and your 2s, then you got to go and dominate down a side of the field. And you have to make good decisions when you make that choice to navigate to the left or to the right or up the middle or whatever it is that you're going to do with the information that's been presented to you.
100%, dude. Yep. I could not agree more.
It's a lot of work. The 3 has a lot of work, but
a lot of responsibility. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. 100%. We, I think it's important for players to understand their role, right? Because, when you go, especially in the lower divisions, and I get it, right? You think paintball, we have a little game plan, like we'll go to these positions. But once the game starts, players are just kind of trying to get kills. And you watch like they're, the 3s kind of looking around, trying to get kills, trying to look for their own move rather than let me help my 2. Let me help my 2, help my 1.
That's
right. And as a 2, it's like, well, hey, I need to be communicating what's going on in my 1 and giving them the confidence to get into, good position. Oh, another big thing about a 2 or a 3 is once your 1 does get into a really good position, one of the most important things you can do is position yourself to be able to protect them and communicate to them that you are looking over them. The communication part is one of the most important parts of it, right? Saying, hey, Tyler, I've got you. I'm looking over you. That's going to allow you to take a deep breath and not panic. And the amount of times, it's every single clinic, it's every weekend that I'm coaching a paintball game. Players forget to do that. Their teammates will get into really good spots and players will forget to reposition, or sometimes you don't have to reposition, but they'll forget to communicate that they're looking over them. So they might be doing the job, but they don't communicate it to their teammate. Their teammate kind of panics, makes a bad decision, and loses a bad gunfight that they didn't need to lose, right? That's a big part of it.
It's huge.
Part of the communication process.
We all know how good that feels when someone rolls up next to you and they're like, hey, yo, I'm right here. You're like, okay, let's go. It just gives you a whole different vibrato, and you're going to be able to really navigate much more smart on your bunker, on your choices, and you're not going to get into a bad decision, and you're going to be connected out there.
Yeah, Ty, 100%.
Yep.
So let's move into game clock. We'll probably close it out with this unless you had any more subjects you want to talk about. I know we do have Discord questions and all that good stuff, but the game clock, this is a big one. It's everything.
Yeah,
Tells you
it
how to
is.
play. Tells you how to play
And
the
then
game.
in
Score and the time.
regards to what you've been talking about of a 2 or a 3 and building the picture, there's kind of a streamlined formula that we've come up with on how to build that picture. It's the elimination count. You know, how many of them are on the field? How many of us are on the field? We got to build the 44, the 43, the 33, whatever that is like the first step. We got to know what we're up against. If we have 4 and they have 5, it's a 45. We need to know that information and know where we have a deficit at. And then after that, we can start to build the identification of where they are and where we're positioned so that we can figure out how to win the game. So that's kind of the path that it goes to. And it sounds easy, but it's really difficult to do all that in a paintball game. And then it's all dictated off of the clock. You know, everything is revolving
And
around the score and the clock. So you have to play appropriately depending on what the situation is telling you to do from the score and the clock.
Now, what do you mean by that, Tyler? What are the different situations that we could see out there?
Well, we train for them tirelessly, you know, down a point, up a point in overtime or the very first point of the match. And it's funny, we've laughed about this a couple times because most paintball teams, they play 30 points a day and they don't do the, you know, down a point, up a point. So they're training for like the first point of the match, you know, the entire time. So
exactly.
it's very important that if you're not going to do it in the practice, you need to at least be mindful of it at the very least of how to navigate when you're down a point or up a point. And it's not too different. You're still going to want to apply pressure. We see it all the time. Teams that sit back, they're up points and they try to sit back and, you know, play the long ball game. They get eaten up, especially with these new fields, with all these bunkers, just get mollywopped. So get out of the back. And actually, I had another video that came out, and it's like, buy yourself some time by making a move and taking a bite. When you take that bite, it's going to put your opponent on their heels. If they're coming at you trying to win a point, don't just sit back, take a bite and apply pressure so that they can't get all that real estate. And then, you know, even if you're up on points, take a bite. If they give it to you, take the bite. Don't ever pass up free moves to get into a great position that will give you better awareness and better pressure and angles in the game, as opposed to sitting back in these trash cans getting shot all up in your riblets, because that is not fun. You know, go out there and take the game to people, and don't ever pass up free moves. If you wrap and you check things off and it's, you know, it's clear and you know it's clear on a green light, take that, you know. And if you're down points, we were talking about at the clinic, you're going to probably have to go on the red lights. You know, you got to go and press it and do whatever it takes to win that point.
Yeah, that to me, I think is the biggest one, right? Is if you're in a match and you're down points and you're down bodies, that's a big part of it. Down points and down bodies. If you're just down 2 points, there's a lot of time on the clock and it's 5-on-5, you don't make a reckless mistake. Wait for the advantage. But if you go down some bodies, the last thing you want is a long point. If it's a 3-on-5 and we're down 0-2, you do not want a long point. You want it to be as quick as possible. So just make some kind of crazy, chaotic move. Don't get a penalty, right? But try to make something happen. You'll be surprised. Sometimes it'll work because the other team doesn't expect you to make a move. They might after listening to the show, but they don't expect you to make a move. And your best time to attack is when they're trying to figure out the situation, right? So as soon as you lose bodies, actually, it's exactly what happened in the overtime point against you guys in Texas. We lost Mikey off the break, and I said, I got to go. So I ditched out to the corner before you guys could really get across the board, like kill 1, 54, here's the bodies. Because once a good team figures out, okay, we have a body advantage and here's where they are, it becomes very difficult to make a move. Because a good disciplined team is going to have all the zones covered. And if you put one in, they'll just call a body over to take over the zone. They have the, you know, numerical advantage. So there's this window when you lose bodies that the other team is still trying to figure it out. That's your best time to attack. So if you're down points and you go down bodies, trying to make a quick move is your best chance right there. And if it doesn't work, guess what? Now you're down 3. You were probably going to lose the point anyway. But being down 3 with 8 minutes to go versus being down 3 with 4 minutes to go is an entirely different ball game. And this is the number one thing that I see teams mess up over and over in the pro division and in all divisions, right?
Yeah.
This is a huge one. And so you need to have an agreement with your coach that, hey, if we are down points and we're down bodies, let's try to make moves. Otherwise, the coach is going to blow the buzzer. That's why Ryan Brand is notorious for just blowing the buzzer. It is so discouraging when you break out. It's like the game's, tied, whatever the score is. Actually, this is interesting. I've been thinking about this, philosophically quite a bit. When you're winning a point against X Factor and you feel like you really earned it, like, oh yeah, we got to kill, we're playing discipline, and then all of a sudden he blows the buzzer when really there's like still some bodies that you would have had to earn to win the point, but he blows the buzzer. There's a weird mental thing that happens that you're like, wait, that point was so quick. We have to earn that again. And that's like kind of a hard thing, to earn it again. Like we just, especially in these like back and forth matches that are brutal. And so you earn one and then you lose one and then you earn one. It's a weird mental thing that I've noticed. When the horn, you don't feel like you earned it all the way. You almost feel like it was like a mistake and you have to it's a weird thing. It's just a weird psychological game. So like the quick horn sometimes it makes sense, And if the players just try to make stuff happen because they know the coach is going to blow the buzzer, then, you give yourself a fighting chance to maybe make some spectacular move. And if you don't, it is what it is.
That's right. You don't want your coach to be sitting there like, I don't know what to do. Or are they going to move? And then you see them take a little bite and they're not accomplishing the goal. And then we lost a bunch of time. It's like, oh no, that's the worst thing that can happen.
Yeah. The players that are down on points and down on bodies should be at the very least communicating, hey, we need to make something happen. That'll tell the coach like, okay, they understand the assignment. I can give them 15 seconds,
Yep.
So yeah. And then if you're up points, if there's a minute and a half left in the game and you're up 2 points, probably don't run the snake on the break. Like there's a window where if it's a minute and a half and you're up 2, probably having 5 alive is the way that you're going to kill the most off that clock. They might be able to score a point, but they're probably going to have like 15, 20 seconds left for the second point. I like those odds. I also understand the philosophy of, if you're up 1 point, right? And it's, little time on the clock, like take a risk because that lead's not guaranteed. Like you said, Ty, if you suck up in the back, the team that's attacking wins those more often than not now. You do need to take some kind of bite somewhere, some kind of risk. But fine line with the clock there, and just probably the most important part of the game. That's where the game is won and lost, is at the very end.
That's right.
Managing the clock.
You're going to have to just have trial and errors, and you'll see it firsthand and learn as you go. But if you ever need help with anything, we have an amazing chat room as well. Everybody knows about PTG World.
Get in the Discord.
We talk about that all the time in there, and different philosophies and ways of approaching the field out there. It's something that you're just going to have to play a lot of paintball and, probably lose a lot more than you win, but it's all a part of that process of learning how to navigate all those situations with the clock and the score.
Absolutely, Ty. Absolutely. Yep. Shall we hop in the Discord? I know we got some questions.
Yes. And everybody just train hard and work smart. That's what it's all about. Work smart too. You can do a lot of work where you're doing the repetitions and working out and doing all these things physically, but you also have to work really smart and start to set aside time to kind of meditate on paintball. Think about paintball. It doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to go anywhere. You can do it right where you're at right now. You can think about paintball and think about the different sides of the field. Think about how you're going to navigate when certain situations happen. It's that mental work that will really take your game to the next level. More so, I would even say, than, just driving yourself into the ground and physically exhausting yourself is really start to think about how this works and why people win and why things go the way they go. Is all these different situations with the clock, the score, and the awareness, and how you navigate through all of those different facets.
Absolutely, brother.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Discord questions. First one's up. Clint Riddle. First concert and your favorite concert. Go.
Dude, my first concert was like these little shows in like Lodi and like Modesto. I would go to these little like rock shows. They're like no-name artists, but they were the best. It was like little rock shows. I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah.
But favorite concert, I really enjoyed Revolution. They're one of my favorite groups of all time.
Yeah, bro, that's fun.
Yeah,
me too. That's probably one of my favorites too.
Yeah, they're the best.
Yeah, man, that's crazy you said that because I was going to go that route. So my first concert was Green Day.
Yeah.
Very first concert. I don't know. I was like 12 or 13,
Wait,
14
was
years
it
old.
Dookie? That was Dookie.
Dookie, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Green Day, oh, what was the name of the song? Time of Your Life, I think, was like my 5th grade graduation song. And so
Yeah.
I always loved Green Day. So that was dope. And then favorite concert, yeah, it was a Revolution concert. One of my best friends, he's lead singer of Through the Roots, you know that, my boy Evan. So they were playing right before Revolution at Red Rocks. So I flew out for a night and got to do like the whole backstage thing, got to meet the Revolution guys, Eric, Marley, the whole deal. And I don't know if you've ever been to that venue, Red Rock.
No, I've seen it.
Dude, it's
Yeah.
incredible. It's incredible. They have this tunnel that goes from backstage straight to like the most perfect part of the whole venue. So you go from backstage, you go down through this tunnel. There's autographs from every single superstar you could imagine, all sorts of artists in there. And you come out the other side and you're like in the stands, but you're right in the middle where the sound is like the optimal audio. It's epic, dude. It was like one of the coolest nights. Remember flying out at like 6 a.m, just got back from a trip, went and spent the night there, came back the next day. It was a quick in and out last minute kind of thing. And it was epic, dude. And so to see one of my best friends perform, and Revolution, who's been one of my favorite bands for a long time, was absolutely amazing. Definitely. I actually think if you go to my Instagram, one of my highlights is that you can go through and see like that whole day, which is pretty cool. Yeah, for sure.
That Red Rock amphitheater is insane.
It's unreal, dude. Yeah.
It's all cut out of the rock there. It's crazy. Yeah. All right, we got Bunker Slug. Who are your biggest influences in your life outside of each other and your dad's, and what is it that you took away from these influences in becoming who you are today?
You know, it's tough to choose just a few because I truly am inspired by almost everybody around me, even, you know, the good and the bad. Inspired to do things a certain way and inspired not to do things certain ways as well. Right. I really observe people's actions. I try to consider why they do things, what kind of results it brings them. And I learn from that. You know, I feel like just like we talk about mental reps in paintball and how just thinking about the game or watching other teams can teach you about the game or about how a field is playing. Well, watching other people can teach you a whole lot about life. You know, how people interact with others, how they train, what their work ethic is, if they read, if they, you know, what they eat, how they exercise, all these things. What kind of results does it bring them, you know, on the field, off the field? Is their love life good? So I really try to learn from as many people as I can. Some standouts, I guess. Obviously, everybody knows Kobe has been a big influence to me. Just his persona and you know the way he approached the game. I think a lot of athletes can relate, or at least try to relate to that, and implement you know that type of work ethic. I'm sure most people fall short. I'm sure myself included. You know, it was his job 24/7. You know, I am inspired by a lot of the kids that I work with. Actually, I learn things from them pretty consistently, which is really neat, really cool. You know, I'm not allowed to say you, he said. Oliver had he was a big inspiration growing up. It was a time in my life where I really needed a good mentor or somebody to look at that showed me, you know, how to live just a really good, positive life. You know, there was a lot of negativity and a lot of things that were maybe easy to be down on. And if you've ever been around Oliver, you realize he's just kind of a glowing light. And really has this aura about him that kind of makes everything better. And that's something that taught me. I saw the results that it brought him and how people really enjoyed being around him. No matter what the situation, he would make people around him feel better about the situation, you know? And I said from an early age, that's the type of person that I want to be. That's somebody that you enjoy being around. Right. So Oliver has had a, you know, tremendous influence. More recently, you know, Archie has been a great influence as well. Archie is a dynamite individual, truly is. Very deep, very thoughtful, you know. He takes time out of his day to, you know, show the people around him that he cares about them. And that's an important thing and something that gets lost on me. You know, I try my best to keep in touch with friends and family, but I don't do a great job. If I'm being completely honest, I don't do as good of a job as I could. So, you know, he's kind of inspired me in that facet of life to be better in that realm. Seriously, I truly take so much from, if we've had an encounter, I've probably taken something from you. It's
That's
just the way
right.
it is.
Yeah.
I've probably taken something from you. And it's intentionally as well. Again, I'm constantly looking at things that people do well, and everybody does something well. So really everybody. Yeah. Sorry if that's too long of an answer,
Yeah.
and I didn't
No,
really
I
give you
love
what
that.
you're looking for, but
Yeah, that's spot on, man, because we all have something to share, and if we're all giving each other like it's kind of like a gift in a way, a gift of a smile or a thought that could be a really profound thought, can change our lives, all of us. And
Mhm.
for me, my biggest influences right now are obvious. There's a ton of pro sports athletes that are my biggest influences in paintball, and like Michael Jordan's all time to me. That guy still to this day like drives my wheels and makes me want to be better than I can imagine I could possibly be. There's a ton of pro athletes that I follow. I love watching football, NBA. I'm really getting into hockey more so these days than I have before. So I enjoy watching pro hockey players. And my teammates are some of my biggest influences and motivations in life right now. I want to make sure that, I'm giving everything that I possibly can to my organization and to the people around me that, that give me life. They really do. They make this journey so much fun. And we're so lucky to be able to play paintball and be on this crazy journey. So there's some of my biggest influences. They said I can't say my dad or my family. Obviously, that goes without saying. They're the rock to it all. And the biggest influence in my life is Jesus. There's something really profound about that relationship that you build with God, and it is something that has been something, you know, that I'm probably not as diligent as I possibly could, but I always think about, how I can do the most and spread the most light in that regard, and give back to my community and my family and just be the best person that I possibly can. And there's no better inspirational figure than Jesus. I mean, the guy is all time. I mean, what are we talking about? You know what I mean? It goes without saying. And if you're able to dive into all the work that was done in those regards, it's truly profound. And we can learn so much about ourselves and being the best community members that we possibly can through that. And shout out to the PTG world. You guys inspire me like crazy. Everybody that's a part of the community, I'm truly inspired by all of you. And Bunker Slug, thank you for being in here and putting that question in there.
Absolutely. All right, Elams, you're bringing someone out of retirement to join your team that you haven't played with professionally before. Who is it and why?
I would have to say I'm gonna bring Shane Pestana. I never got to play with Shane, and I would love to play
I
alongside
did.
Shane Pestana. Yeah,
Damn, it's tight.
yeah.
Hell yeah. I'm gonna say Todd Martinez. He was my coach on Infamous, but never got to play with him. And Tizzle is just an OG, super fun person to be around. I'm very lucky. I've gotten to play with a lot of the legends. Chris Asoya. I played with Shane Pestana on the Ironman. He did come
Mhm.
out of retirement in like 2000. I think that was 14. So I got to play with him. That was a dream come true. Nikki Cuba, Miko Hooten, so many of the players I've been fortunate enough to play with. So I think it has to be Todd. I think it has to be
Tizzle,
Todd.
Cash
Yeah.
Money, baby.
Tizzle.
He's the best,
That'd
dude.
be a riot.
Dude, he's all time. He's my
Yeah, for
favorite.
sure.
Ever since I was a youngster, Todd's been one of my favorite players, and now I get to get coached by him and travel around with him. And even like before I was in the same organization with Todd, we met out in Europe at I think it was either France a few years ago or possibly Prague, and I was like, Tizzle, you're my spirit animal. And then it
Yeah.
came to fruition that that we're on the same team together. So big shout out to Todd Martinez.
Hell yeah.
All right, we got, let's see, Young Lettuce. Do either of you have aspirations to coach professionally when you hang up the cleats in a few more decades?
I don't. I really don't. I really enjoy working with newer players and teaching them how to play the game. And it's, it's pretty fulfilling to watch them go and have their own career kind of, without me. That's kind of my goal. I don't currently have those aspirations. Maybe one day, maybe it'll change when I stop competing professionally. But as of now, I really, really enjoy just kind of helping the next generation and getting them prepared for the pro division.
I am right there with you. I think you took the words right out of my mouth on that one.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
All right. We've got Ospina 14. How can we get the battle of the generations to go down? I think instead of an all-star game, it should be the battle of the generations. Time to see what gen gets it done.
Damn. It's going to happen at some point.
I think if we just keep talking, I think it's going to happen. Yeah, that's right.
So it'll probably just happen at some random field.
Yeah.
There'll be it'll just happen where there's a bunch of us from each group of the generations, and we're just going to run it. It's probably going to be at a 10-man event.
Oh, yeah, it could be. 100%.
Yeah. And then let's see. We got a bunch of them. Cool Fire. What are your thoughts about?
Are we avoiding young Stevie's question because we want the other person to ask it? Is that what's going on?
Oh, let's get young Stevie in the mix.
Okay.
If you had to pick another team for each other to play on and why, what team would you pick? You can't pick your existing team, and you have to share why behind the team you choose. So I would choose a team for you. Is that right?
Yeah, and I choose a team for you. No, you asked the question, so I get the answer first. I don't want you stealing that's why I didn't ask the question. I'm putting you on the Latin Saints, bro.
Hey, let's go.
I'm getting one of the best gunslingers in the game off one of the best teams in the game. Sorry, brother, you're going to purgatory for a little bit.
Well, Saints crew, let's run it. Let's go.
Let's run it. Sorry, Saints.
All right, so I would have to say I'm gonna put you in with New York Extreme because they
I'll go to New York. Let's go New York.
Yeah, they like to rock, and I think that would be a fun camp to run around in.
Dan, you're looking out for me.
Yeah, you're going to New York.
Here. I'm over here. I'm getting you off the map, boy.
I saw that. I saw how that worked.
Oh man. Yeah, it's too good.
Thank you, Stevie. That was good.
Yeah, that was good. That was funny though, because it was a great question, and I kept not asking it because I didn't want you to say something like that first, and I was wondering if you were doing the same thing.
Yeah. And it got a lot of votes. And
yeah,
in PTG world, it's cool because everybody can vote. There's these little ballot boxes that they leave the emojis on there. Yeah. So if you haven't checked it out, there is 7-day free trial that you can check out, ptgpaintball.com. Click that orange link when you get there and get some details on how you can join the chat and be a part of this.
100%. All right, my last question is from Coolfire 2005. What are your thoughts about incorporating more local events into the NXL stats, like having an NXL minor league in all regions of the U.S. and using those points to bring more teams to the major events? So it's a little bit of a confusing question, but actually they do that through the APPA system. So if by points you're referring to your ranking, your player ranking, that is what gets done at all of the regional events. They do kind of work with the NXL and are somewhat affiliates. And they have tried this in the past as well to have, more NXL branding at these things. But that's what the APPA system is for. PB leagues, it is a ranking system. So I guess I don't totally understand the question. Do you, Ty?
Well, I think he's trying to stir up more events that can be linked to the NXL stats is what
but they are. Like. These events are, right? Like the MVPS is, they did too a while ago, the WPBO, I think it was World Paintball Organization. Yeah. Where it was much more like that, to where all of the regional leagues had to have all the same rules and same bunker sets and all that. Didn't really work too well. And that's why we've seen some of the leagues kind of go back. Like the WCPPL now is there, whatever the players want. The players voted that they wanted to play with the X and the mini X's. So that's what Mike did. And I think that's fine. I think that's totally fine. But they do use the APPA system, right? So they have those rankings and those players are kind of filtered towards the NXL. It's not one or the other.
Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I mean, the dream is that we can have, as many paintball teams and players out there playing events across the country. And like NBA has 32 pro teams, NFL has 32 pro teams. Shoot, maybe someday pro paintball can have 32 pro organizations around the country, which would be great, because then you have all these pockets of pro paintball all across the country. Right now, we do have quite a few of them, but the more pockets of pro paintball that we can develop, the more that it's going to infiltrate into those ecosystems,
Yes.
and we'll get more paintball players playing and being inspired to join those organizations in those pockets. So we want to see, pro paintball expand and grow, and hopefully NXL can, continue to just put on these magnificent tournaments that they've been putting on for the culture of the game, because it is the pinnacle of paintball right now. It is where the best players are playing. So if we can continue to grow that league and have tons of NXL pro teams across the country, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I 100% Ty. I did lead you astray on that, though. There's 30 teams in the NBA. I apologize.
Oh, is it 30? Yeah.
It's 30.
Yeah.
Yeah,
30
I think
teams.
I said 32 when we were, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you, brother.
Yes, sir.
All
Yeah,
right.
more paintball. We need more paintball. Let's keep playing and having fun. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in and tapping in as well to the Discord. We have some new PTG merch that is going to be dropping this week, so be on the lookout for that. It will first be available in the chat of Discord. So if you are able to get into the Discord chat, or you're already a part of it, you will get the first go at the merch that will be dropping this week. And if there's any left, it'll go public. But be on the lookout for that.
Awesome, Ty. Well, I think this was an amazing episode. I really enjoyed talking paintball with you. Welcome to the PTG Pro School on Play the Game podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed. Please, check out the Discord. Come hang out in there. Ask us questions about what we were talking about, and let's grow. Let's get better, and let's have some fun.
Yes, sir. Have a good night,
All right,
Marcia.
everybody. You too. Peace.
Peace.
All right, everybody. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and rocking with us. We hope you enjoyed the show. As always, if you did, please head over to ptgpaintball.com. Click the Patreon link at the top left corner. Subscribe and support the show. So subscribing at any level will give you access to the Discord. That's where all the fun is. That's where we are all the time, day in and day out. Ask us whatever questions you want. We will get back to you. It's a very fun, awesome community. You can try it out for 7 days for free. So there's really no excuse. Try it out. See if you like it. If you don't, you can always cancel. All right, everybody. As always, we will see you very soon.